Antony, welcome, my friend.
Thank you.
Yes, it's a pleasure, and it's my second English interview.
Okay.
I'm very, very much excited about it because, as I told you a little bit before, this is one of the things that you really want to pass to people back home, the experiences that you have along the way, and I can't wait to hear about your experience. But you know that you meet some amazing people and you want for other people to feel the same way that you feel. And last journey that I had in the US, I felt like after I finished it, I was like, oh, I wish I would have captured the stories and the people that I meet along the way. So this is my attempt of doing it with this podcast, with the English version podcast, and you're the second guest, so I'm very happy to have you here, brother. And yeah, this is just a normal, regular, friendly discussion. So you can say anything, you can talk about anything. Don't need to be nervous. But what I'm very much interested in, of course, you can ask me any question that you want, is you are traveling now from Mexico with your girlfriend down to Colombia at the first part.
Yeah.
Sort of, yes, right? How did this idea came to mind?
I think the traveling by bike ID come after I had my first experience with traveling by bike. It was in Europe with 4 friends, very close friends. And there I discovered the power of this bike travelings and the philosophy that is in this type of travel. And I was just loving this. The things I loved more is like you are really you really live with nature, with climate, with sun, and there's no more hours or a day of week or there's no more of this. It's just you wake up with the sun, you go biking, you go slowly, so you discover all the landscapes. You go slowly so you can easily speak to the people you meet on the road, and you never know where you go. You don't know where you go. You don't know the roads. You don't know the things you will see. You don't know where you will camp. You don't know nothing. You just know that you are in your bike with friends, with person you love. Now I'm with my girlfriend, and I think it's for me that important is this what the bicycle trip make you experiment like this. It's very it give you this power of moment. It give you this chance to be slow in your life and meet a lot of people. So whatever the place you are going, for me, it doesn't matter. I think the most important is the bicycle trip and the person who you share this trip. But whatever you go, you will probably have the same basic feeling, the same feeling, and you will live this philosophy day per day, and it helps. Like it's very helping for your mental, and it's very good for your liberty, for your feelings of freedom, and that's I think the I don't know if it answered to your question.
This is beautiful. First of all, how old are you?
24.
24.
Yeah.
And what at what age was your first bike
Mhm.
experience?
20 years old, I think.
20.
Yeah.
What got you involved in this?
I think it was more traveling with friends. The first thing was traveling with friends, and we had this one friend who have done a lot of bicycle trip, um, and he speaks a lot with us, and he gave us the this volunteer to go with him and to try this experience. And I was with a very person which I'm very friend and in confidence. So I was feeling good about this. I was super excited to go with all my stuff just on a bike, and I think, yeah, this confidence gave me this force to go, and then I started to realize what was the bike trip, and
How long was the first trip?
it was 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Just
Wow.
2 weeks. Yeah.
It's intense. And like before that, you just like driven bikes in the town or in the.
Yeah, it's totally different than riding in the town, and you don't have to. There's a lot of people who ask, but you have to be a cyclist and you have to be you have to have performance, and but I don't think so. If a traveling by bike, it's you can do your kilometers, you can go at your speed, you can. And bicycling is not so tiring like walking. It's less tiring, so yeah, it's very you can adapt. There's so many ways also to travel by bike. We met a lot of different bikers, and there's so many different types of bikers, material and philosophy also, and places where you sleep, what do you eat, and a lot of differences.
What like let's go back to that for a second. Like what type of bicycle philosophies, or like what type of cyclists have you
Mhm.
met along the way that are doing this long term?
I think there's performance bikers. There are some who are doing this and who are doing the most kilometers they can. It can be competition. In Europe, there are some competition from Belgium to Turkey, and it can be a self competition. For a lot of people, it's a self competition. They want to do a lot of kilometers and go to a place in the less time they can, and so this performance guy, and he can bike on night and sleep on the curve when it's very tired. It can be very impressive for other type of bikers. Then you have the total opposite, who they are traveling in a different way, and then they meet some people who are traveling by bike, and then they buy a bike and they start traveling by bike without very much material. They don't know how to fix a bike, or they do like maybe one day of bike, and 3 days they stay in the place they find, maybe more. So there's also this differences about the kilometers you do and about the time you stay on the places. There's a lot of bikers who go every day, and there's a lot of bikers who do just maybe 2 days of biking, and they stay like 1 month to do some project, and they continue and they travel for 10 years. And there are some who do the world tour in 2 years. So
the whole world in 2 years.
Yeah, 2 or 3 years. Yeah.
Wow. And where would you position yourself, you and your girlfriend?
We are we're not biking a lot. Like we're biking 50 kilometers to 60, 70 sometimes. So it can be like 4 or 5 hours a day when we bike. But then we also go to places to do some volunteering experience. Um, so it's hard to say where I am, but I think it's very particular to all the bikers.
After that first trip, like that bug in you that started building up, how would you characterize it, and how did you get your girlfriend to get involved in this, or she also biked before and you met in this community or whatnot?
So first I had a second experience with the same friend, and then I started to from after the first time I started to talk to my girlfriend all the experiences, and I think I shared to her good things about this trip, and she was also a little bit excited but a little bit afraid. So we organized a little trip together in France, and easy road. So from the Alps to the Mediterranean Sea, and it takes us like 8 days, I think. And she
all in France.
Yeah.
So everything is from your town. You said that you are in the Alp area, right?
Yeah.
So from your town down to the Mediterranean. Yeah. What is it, Biarritz area?
No, it's more Biarritz. It's more on the other side of. So we went to the near
Cannes?
Nice, Cannes, this part. Yeah.
Yes.
And it's like there's a cycling road all along, quite all along. It's it follow a river, the Rhône, it's called.
Okay.
And it's a very good road. It's easy road, and very safe, and you can camp everywhere. And I think it's a good road to start and to have his first experience by bike. I think it's important to not put an too big objective for your first trips.
Yeah.
And see in a little trip if you like it, and then you can maybe imagine bigger objective and trip.
And people in Europe are aware of bikers? Like, is this something that, like, you notice as a driver that you need to be careful of bikers, or not so much? Because in Israel, like, there is a big community of cyclists and people who are traveling by bike, but there are also a lot of accidents, and you know, it's like, because this is such, you're very vulnerable. This is just you. You don't have any protection. You don't have anything. Even a small hit can, you know, either cause you real harm or death in the worst case. How is it like in Europe or in France?
I think it's for me it's difficult to say by continent or country. I think it's more something that you have or you don't have as a person. That there are a lot of persons who respect us in every country where we go, and there are some. I think I would say there are some persons who don't respect and don't understand the thing we are doing and don't want to share the road. But most of my experience are good experience. And you have some bad that happen, but it's always disturbing and it's scaring.
Yeah.
but most of the experience are good. So
It balances
yeah,
off.
the balance is off. Yeah.
And your family, what are their thoughts? What are their thoughts about you doing like this kind of journey?
I think when you are doing alone, I was doing alone a trip also, and they were more afraid.
From where to where?
From Mendoza, Argentina,
Okay.
to I met guys to La Rioja, like 10 days alone in Argentina.
Okay.
Then I meet a guy, so we follow, and I realized that my family is very less afraid when you are not alone.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing, to not be alone. And I think the most important thing is to communicate, and we are doing it. Like we always find card SIM chip,
Yeah.
and we always communicate with our parents to say that we are good. I think it's important to us. I think as a parent, I'm not parent, but I think it will be very
Terrifying.
full,
Yes. Like
Yeah.
I think about like if my child, a lot of times you do things that you're like, even after you do them, like, wow, what a stupid I was. Like how did I like have the balls of doing it? And like, so it's definitely something that like as a parent you experience it because you're not there. You're thinking about the worst scenarios, and you're thinking about what the worst that can happen. But going back to your first trip from the Alps down to the Mediterranean, how was the experience for both of you?
It was harder than with a friend. So because I think a relationship with girlfriend, it's a little bit harder to regulate. And but it was very nice, and she loved it, and I was very impressed by her, by her performances. And but also it was harder, I think, because it's not the same. Like with friends, it's very the relationship with friends, it's easier, I think, because they're not so much love, and you're not caring as you carry your girlfriend, so you have a little bit more feeling of responsibility, and a little bit more scared if something happened. So it was a little bit harder, but it's also beautiful to learn a lot of things with this with your love, because you 24 hours together, and and sometimes a lot of time you don't know where you go, so you don't know where you're gonna sleep, or don't know where you're gonna eat. And those are principal things. I think there's a most important thing for bike trip, and also maybe for life, to be to eat and to sleep well. And so sometimes it can be hard because you do kilometers, so you are doing a physical effort and mental effort also, and then you have to find those places, and there's sometimes the tensions comes, and and you have to regulate, and the first experience was difficult because it was the first, and now we find a balance, and we know more each other, so we have less tensions, and we also have sometimes, but we have less than the first time.
Yeah, it reminds me when Danny and I traveled in a camper in the US. It's the same. Like you're 24/7 together. Like even if we used to to get into a fight or whatever, she used to go in Walmart. She used to go for a round and then come back. Like you can't separate completely. And I think that retrospective, if you look at it, it makes the relationship way much stronger, because you get to know the person in real situation, and in situation that in a regular relationship setting it might have taken you years to discover this aspect of your partner. Then here you see him when he's happy, you see him when he's sad, you see him when he's angry, and it's all raw. It's all like very, very real, especially when you're combining it with physical physical efforts and adrenaline and everything. So it's like you get to see like the real person. Then you deal with this situation. Of course, there are times, and we just started to see this one video about a cyclist in Europe that him and his friend have started, and then they broke out. So of course it's a possibility, but if you stay strong, you get stronger. That's what I feel about our relationship. Yeah.
And I think communication is still the most important thing, and sometimes it's hard to say things and know how to say, or you will say it wrong, and it will cause a conflict. But I think it's important to say things. It's for me, it's always like this, that you regulate a relation, and I think that's a force we have with my girlfriend also when we are out of this trip, and I think it can also be linked with our profession, our study, which are social work, and which are very based on communication and non-violent communication and accept differences and all those things. I think they helped for our relationship. Yeah.
That's interesting. There's you said non-violence communication. There's an American guy, I forgot his name. I'm sure you maybe you know him.
I don't know.
That he created this method of non-violent communication, and I was in a men's retreat in Israel, and they taught us really in a nutshell, in one of the sessions they gave us like to experiment with this kind of way of communication, and I felt like it changed my whole life, and like suddenly I discovered something that I felt like I should have learned back in elementary school, and like they don't teach us. And this is fascinating. So you both studied social work back in France, or you studied abroad?
We study in Geneva.
Okay.
Because we live in the border with Switzerland, and the nearest university are in Geneva, and it's a school of social work, and we meet each other in this school, and we study in the same time in this school. The nonviolent communication wasn't the biggest part of our study, but it was also like some sessions, very short, but very very interesting. And also I keep it in mind, these little days we study on that. It's not easy to explain it, and not easy to practice it. But I think if you just think and you are conscious that it exists, you can try. And
I think that later on, I will look up later is the name of the guy. But what was most interesting to me is the way that we communicate. Is a lot of the time we don't express what we really feel. We are doing a sort of or we object on you, like that it is your blame, or that we are saying stuff that are in general, and it has nothing to do with this specific situation. So a lot of the times the other partner can really understand what is wrong, instead of saying, I felt insecure because this word triggered me. back to some associations that I had as a child,
Mm-hmm.
you would say you always do something like
Yeah.
that. You always behave like that. And that's like something that really, really, like it opens my eyes that the way that we behave, because at the end of the day, I really believe that no other person other than us has the ability either to make us happy or to hurt us. So it doesn't matter what you are doing. It's my choice on how I am reacting
Mm-hmm.
to whatever whatever the circumstances are. So it's very, very fascinating fascinating work. So give me some tips on on some of the things that you take from your experience with the non-violence communication and with communications in general, as someone who's with his partner for 24/7, and sometimes conflict arises, and how do you resolve it in a way that that really move things forward, and then you're all back in good terms?
I think when you told me that, I think about a place. I always need a place to communicate. For me, it's important to be in an intimate space and try to find this little place, not to do it. I don't know. For me, it's important to be in intimate space, and maybe you can wait to communicate. Also, you between the moment of the problem gets on you and the moment that you will talk. If you wait, you can think about how you gonna talk to the person. Then you said that you have to focus on your feeling. That is, I think, the most difficult thing and the most important. It's very hard to when we ask, I think, people, and we ask ourselves what are the different a list of feelings. We cannot say feelings. It's very hard. So feelings, and the other thing is listen. I think it's for me also it was also in a classroom. There was an Indian professor of social work came to Geneva, and very particularly saying that listening was a big answer for everything. And I think listening, talk about you, it's very difficult. For me, I think it's hard to find the good words to explain your feelings, because before you have to explain your feelings, and then you have to find a word to say. So I think this is the most important. And I think also that conflicts can be good, because it's, I think, like natural thing. Like you arrive sometimes at a point where there's a little explosion, a conflict, and then you can also think about this conflict, and the conflict can arrange the situation. So there's many ways to communicate, but in those kind of trip, I think the place to find the intimate space can be hard sometimes. And you have to be you have to know, always asking, like you were saying, like asking why I'm reacting like this, why this thing she does makes me angry. And I think it's always inside us, but it's very hard to understand.
Yes, it's very easy to understand it cognitively, but it's very hard to understand it emotionally. At least for me, that's how I feel. Now, when I, like a few days before you guys moved into the room next to us, I was already starting to dabble with the thought of, okay, Danny, once once we have the baby, we can go and do like a bike trip like this, and the things that I think would be the hardest are really the first of all, like the setup every night of like the camping and stuff like that. Now, I wanted to understand from you a little bit what do you think are the hardest things that you encounter when you're doing a long term bike trip, bicycle trip, and what are some of the beautiful things that you might not think of, or some of the things that you experience along the way that you're like, this is worth it, and this is something that I feel like is worth even the hardships and the struggles that we encounter.
Yeah, I think very depends on your on your feeling at moment. Also, like there are days which are harder, like you feel tired, maybe physically, and I think there are. I can say different example of hard thing, like climbing a long mountain, or going by bike with rain or with wind. With wind, I think it's harder because you're trying the winds push you off. So maybe those natural thing, hard thing, and physical. Your the comfort sometime when you have the you have the hard day, a long day, different difficulties, and you camp in a place like with not a lot of comfort. It can be hard to wake up in the morning and to find the forest to go, and you are in this moment where you want to go because you want to quit this uncomfortable place, and so those are some hard things. But I always, all the beautiful things we met, always balance of those hard thing, and very without no doubt I can say this. I still think that bicycling trip for me, it's the best way to travel, for the reason I said at first, and I can join like that. For me, how you meet people by bike is very different, because you were saying before the vulnerability. I'm sure this is something for when you arrive with a bike with all your stuff in, and you meet the people and say where I can camp, and you begin to explain we start there, and people start to be impressed, and they very helped you, like there's something there that creates, and the exchanges are so good. Like I think is one of the best thing for me, maybe before and after the landscape, the nature, but yeah, to meet people like this, it's so good. Like
do you have any memorable moment or any specific person on this trip that got into your heart? And
yeah, there's so many. Like there's quite one every week that is very memorable, and the first day we met a guy in Mexico. He said to us, like, he saw us, we began to speak. He said to us, oh, if you want, if you don't have a place to stay, you can come with me and my parents. We are going to this place where they are building something and all. And we say, okay, let's go. That's the incredible thing, that when you don't have nothing to
Yes.
organize, you can just follow the opportunities like this. And we stayed 2 days with him, sharing with his parents, with children, with person of the village there, a birthday, soccer game, foods, not restaurant, but moment of food, like
Eating together.
sharing a meal. And also he brings us to cenotes. In Mexico, you have a lot. In Yucatan, you have a lot of cenotes, which are underwater spaces.
Caves.
Caves, underground spaces with water. River are connected very deeply, and you can go there. And we went there with him at night, with children and with stuff to dive. And he
With
pressed
the gear.
yeah, he pressed to me the whole thing to dive, and we dived there. It was beautiful, and we have a lot of experience like that with the bomberos, with the fire stations, the fireplaces. They always received us with arms open, like it's our house. We share a lot of with them. We can have a shower there. We can cook. They have always a kitchen, and they have this very power of just open their spaces. Always, like in 1 minute, you just say that, can we stay here? Yeah, sure. And you enter, and it's like your home. And also in Nicaragua, the Red Cross, we met in a city, the Nagarote, the Red Cross of Nagarote. They were like 25 volunteers, and we stayed there 2 nights with 3 other cyclists from Argentina. And this place was all but everything. Everything. You cannot imagine the Red Cross like this. Like all when I think about Red Cross, I cannot think about this type of place. It was a place very open for all the children and the young people of the city. It was a place to meet the young, to stay, to be safe, to play. It was incredible. It was like we have those kind of places in Europe. They are house for youngs, or
Yes.
house of the how do you say,
Troubled youth or
Yeah.
stuff like that.
or like open house for the village. And it was this type of house, but it was the Red Cross who was doing this, and I don't think it was their mission
Yeah.
at first, but they were doing this, and it was beautiful. We shared there a lot of good moments, like family, and you can stay there. They always say you can stay how many times you want, and it's incredible to feel like home in far away from your home, and I'm also very happy to see that there's a lot of people who are very listening and very helping, and it's nice to see this face of world, and it gives you power and give us hope.
Yes.
Give you hope about.
Yes. Is it different than what you imagined when you? I'm sure that people like when before you started this, people would say, "Oh, you're going to Honduras, to El Salvador, to Nicaragua. There was a war. There's this, there's that." Like,
yeah.
is it different than what you imagined? Like when you met the real people?
I think I don't think.
Oh,
I
you
try.
didn't come with any prejudice or
Yeah,
anything.
it's a thing I try. I listen people who say this dangerous, don't go there. But I listen, but I don't get this. I don't get afraid. I just think I will see there, and also because I had experience that proves me that I always can find some and lot of good people, and it's always like this. So at a certain point you know that you will find good people, and I think it's if you want to, and if you have a good energy, and if you come with with honesty and respect, and you will find this, and maybe I think it's a relation also you can practice. Like maybe if you come badly, it's sure that the person
that's
will
the
not
energy
receive.
that you give out. Yes,
I think it's
yes.
Sharing.
Now, how long you been on the road already?
I started in Argentina alone, so 6 or 7 months.
6 or 7. So from Argentina to where did you?
To Cusco, Peru.
To Cusco, Peru.
Yeah.
How
And
long? Like how many kilometers was that?
They are 2,500 kilometers.
Wow.
We didn't. So I met an Argentina on the road.
Yeah.
And we didn't do a part in Bolivia. It was winter, and we escaped this winter place. Like Altiplano was very cold, and so we escaped maybe 800 kilometers.
Okay.
And then I flew from Lima. I was to Cusco by bus to Lima, and to Lima I went to Cancun, where I met Lauren.
But from Lima flight to Cancun.
Yes.
Okay.
That was the.
And from Cancun, what was the route that you made up until here in Ometepe?
The what?
The route. What was the journey from Cancun? How did you go down?
Wow.
Generally.
We so from Cancun we went to west to Merida. So we did like this in all
Merida
Yucatan.
is all in Mexico.
Yeah.
Okay.
Merida is in Yucatan.
Okay.
So you just Cancun Merida is like this in the south part of Mexico. Then we go down to the Campeche region, Campeche and Chiapas.
Okay.
Then we arrived in Guatemala, and we crossed at the middle, like we crossed Guatemala, passing by the city Huehuetenango, Quetzaltenango, the Lago Atitlan, the city of Antigua. Then we go a little bit down, and we arrived at the frontier of El Salvador. We crossed El Salvador near the Pacific coast. Then we took we arrived at the south of El Salvador, where there's a place called Volcan Conchagua.
Okay.
And I think it's the most beautiful place I've seen on this trip.
Wow.
So you go up this volcan, and you have a view of the Gulf, Nicaragua, Honduras, and El Salvador. So you see the free borders and the free ground, and they are island and Volcan Island, and it's spectacular. And you can camp on the Volcan Conchagua, and the place it's called Espíritus de la Montaña,
Okay.
spirit of the mountain, and there's a lot of story about spirit there, and female energy, and we talk a lot with the owner, and it's called Luis. I really recommend this place. It's incredible. Like there's very good energy, and the view is so powerful. It gives you it gets wow,
Yes.
so emotionally, like it's beautiful. And we go down, and we took a little boat on this gulf in the water. We arrived in Nicaragua on the northwest, and
Like Leon area.
Chinandega region. It's a little bit north.
Okay.
Potosí, exactly. And then we go down to Chinandega, Leon, Managua, Granada, Rivas, and here.
Nice.
And from Cancun here we've done 2,500, I think, kilometers.
Wow. And from here, the road down, Costa Rica, Panama.
Panama. You need to take a boat in Panama
Yes.
to cross the Darien.
Yes, the
and
Darien Gap.
Yeah, and we know one story of a guy who did it in bike, but we're
Yes.
not doing it.
Yeah. This is a very dangerous, sketchy place. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. There's a lot of story.
Jungle place. There's a
Yes.
story about gangs.
Yes.
But what I heard is mostly about nature difficulties than gangs.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes.
But I heard more about this jungle difficulties passing by.
Yeah.
And then Colombia, and then we have to choose. We will see if we go to Amazonia
Mm-hmm.
by boat. You take a little boat to cross Amazonia, and then you can bike Brazil,
Mm-hmm.
or you can do Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, and then you choose between Bolivia or Chile and Argentina, and we think about going to Uruguay.
Okay. Which is on the East Coast, no?
Yeah, it's on the East Coast, and it's south of Brazil. It's near to Florianopolis in Brazil. It's a place very touristic and famous. Like it's the frontier with Uruguay. It's very near, and you also have a frontier with Buenos Aires. There's Buenos Aires is very near to Uruguay, and I have a family there from Italian migration.
Right,
So,
there's a lot of Italy from
yeah,
after World.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I start my trip there, and I'm going back to there, and I'm gonna stay with Lauren, my girlfriend, and the family. I don't know how many time, but I want to share other moments with them, and then go back in Europe or do Patagonia. We'll see.
And did it change your so far? Obviously, you're still in the middle of your big journey, but do you feel like it changed some stuff in you about thoughts about the future, about what maybe you want to do, about the lifestyle that you want to have, about stuff like that?
Yeah, I think about values. Yeah. When I meet the Argentine guy, I started learning a lot with him, and I started see that I was not so humble, like him.
What do you mean by humble?
It's like
Humble, you mean?
yeah, humble.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, it's a thing that I wasn't realizing that, but when you come from Europe, and you go where in the south, there are things that you have integrate in Europe that are very different in the south, and you have to manage. You have to see that here it's different, and you cannot sometimes you cannot say something. You have to change the way you communicate. For it's not easy to
Respect the way of the land.
yeah,
Is that what you mean?
and respect the economical differences also, and try to adapt yourself. And that was a thing I learned. It's like live. I like now. I like to live with a little bit, and I think I wasn't a big spender in Europe, but it's just that it's bigger now. The thing get bigger. Like I really believe that happiness is in the simple thing, and be conscious of what you have, like eat and a place to sleep. Like I was saying, it's for me like the most important things, and also social, but yeah, like simple thing, and that gets bigger with this trip. I think because I saw a lot of differences on the way of life, on the buildings, on the people who were sharing a little space to sleep, or sharing a little bit of food, or also like sharing more discussion. I feel like people have more time to have conversation, and I meet people who drink less also than in Europe. I don't know, but there were I begin to see that, and I think that was one of the value. It's not very clear. I think it's not very clear for me too, but
Sometimes it takes time for everything that we absorb to integrate into our life, but it's an ongoing process. It's not something that, okay, I saw one thing, I know this, boom, I'm a changed man. It's an ongoing process of a lifelong journey. This is, at least for me, like, I don't think that there's an end point into where I'm finally reaching a destination. Okay, I'm perfect, I'm enlightened, whatever it is. It's like it's an ongoing process, and we're constantly evolving. I don't want to say improving, because I believe that we are playing our part and our role at each point in our life, but we are evolving, we're changing. The same way that we played our part as kids and as babies, now we're playing our parts at different parts of adulthood. Yeah.
I agree with that. And other values, I think this power of now, this I think I'm still fighting with this, like a lot of people, I think, on earth, still fighting with my brain, with this, trying to be conscious of this moment and be happy and know that I'm okay now, and try to don't think about tomorrow what I will do. But your brain always call you like this. It's a big fight, I think, for everybody now. There's a big pressure, social and economic, that want you to choose something to do of your life. And in this trip, the bike trip, you get easier with this. I think it's it's one of the good thing with the bike trip, that you can easily work on this, and I think it's a very good thing, because you understand that that you always find you will always find your needs, and if you are like, sometimes the fear can be about the money. A lot of person, we always cared about this, but I think when I never lived this experience, but maybe I will someday. But I think when you don't have money, you will find a way to get some, or to find some food or some place to stay. And when you think that find some food and a place to stay is the more important, and you think that you can find this also if you don't have any money, you can relax about the future, and and focus on the present, and focus on what you're seeing, and the person which you are sharing things.
Is this something? Is
So-
this something that you slowly realize that okay, let's say at the beginning of the journey, I was always focused about what happened when my money ends, and suddenly I see that, hey, like, even though I don't have much money, or sometimes I don't spend any money, people always take care and like help with food and like
Mhm.
with shelter.
Yeah, I'm trying. I'm trying, but I think I have to live the experience.
Yes.
This is something that calls me, and also I'm saying like it's not nice to call this, because some people don't have money and live very hard condition, and they want to get out of this.
Yes.
But I think you can learn a lot,
Yes.
and I'm trying, but I think you have to experiment this.
Yes. It
And,
reminds me, in my journey, there was one time in West Virginia that I blew up an engine, and I didn't have the money to fix the engine. It would cost like $3,000-$4,000, not to mention like to have like a new RV, which would cost even more, and I was like with less than $1,000. And I did a lot of mental work of embracing, okay, even if I'm homeless now, I'm still gonna be good, I'm still gonna be okay. And like you said, like it's a privilege to have this ability to even contemplate about this idea, because sometimes, or people in all over the world don't have food, don't have money, and here I am coming from a wealthy part of the world where I choose to have these experiences. But I totally get what you're saying, is that it kind of, I want to test my limits. I want to see how far I can go and still be happy, and not have this intimidate me as much as I thought it would. So I totally understand what you're saying in that aspect. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And like, I have like million more questions, but I think that before we end, I know that this is a question that a lot of people like to get stuck on, the nitty gritty and about the technical aspects of long-term bike tours, and what exactly you take. I don't think that this is important, but I'm sure that a lot of people who will watch it will have this question. Okay, what do you have? What exactly is the gear that you are carrying with you? So can you share a little bit about the setup that you have? What kind of bikes, what kind of gear that do you guys take with you?
So I think I want to answer, maybe not specifically about what we have, but maybe for the person will see, it's better to know that you can go, I think, with any kind of bike, because I saw so many types of bike, And there's always someone who will say that it's better with this one, with aluminium. No, because if it broke and you cannot find somewhere who fix it, so it's better with steel, and it's better mountain bike. It's better. I think you just have to go and take the bikes you have.
No excuses.
No excuses.
Yes.
So the bike, you can go with the bike you want. And the equipment is the same. Like I saw so many different type of equipment, from the very good, like very waterproof things, very expensive, and I saw some guys with a fruit case, a big fruit case on the back of the bike, and bags and things on the fruit case, and they were doing Panama to Mexico like this. And with also bike, they find like one they find the person give it to them. So bikes very
Basic.
Basic bikes. So we have mountain bikes, but not very mountain bikes. It's like first mountain bikes you can find. So not a lot of suspension, and I think you need a tent. One of the most important thing is a tent, and also things to like. There's different type of mattress you can sleep. So it's better to have something inflatable or not, but some mattress. But yeah, the tent is important. For the material to fix your bike, the most important is to have the tube, to change your tube, but then you can find on the way the other things. The material at first, when you are preparing this, you think a lot about material.
Yes.
Because it's something that give you some rassurant,
some confidence, some some
a good feeling.
Yes.
Like I have the material.
Yes.
But
Yes.
I think it's wrong. I think it's because it's difficult to go, so you want to be a bit more sure about what are you doing. But the material is not the most important. Maybe the tent is good to have, but you can find a tent on your way.
Yes.
So yeah, just the thing is that if you want to do this experience, I will preconize, or I will recommend to do a little experience, 1 week, and go with what you have. Try to do with the what you have. Don't spend a lot of money on material, and maybe ask some people if they can lend us to you, or you can also see on internet how to build some things, very simple things, and try and maybe don't go with a backpack. That is one thing I don't recommend, to go with a backpack. It's good to have your back free, and that's all. And the helmet.
Yeah.
Not every cyclist wear it on their trip. I think it's a very light thing, and it can save your life. So I will recommend to have one.
One recommendation: helmet. Yes. Got it. Now, when do you have a rough estimation on when you're gonna end this current journey?
We think summer. It's next. Before
summer 2020.
Yeah, before summer maybe, but
who knows?
Yeah, we don't know.
And are there? Of course, you're still in the middle of it, but do you have any thoughts about the future? Maybe work-wise, maybe trip-wise. Is there something that comes to mind, or or you just like focus right now on
Yeah.
from Ometepe, where do I continue?
Yeah, I think I'm more focused. Yeah, it's true that I think about the future, uh, not thinking about trips, but maybe, yeah, I think that when I come back, I will work somewhere, and I just think that I will take the opportunity that will find. Um, yeah, it's things you think, um, but I'm more focused on this moment and here and in Costa Rica. We are very happy to meet some person of our family. They are going to Costa Rica. My parents and Lauren's mother
Oh, that's
and
amazing.
Lauren's aunt. So I think I'm now in this
Yes,
and happy to see again my parents and
that's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
That's amazing. Um, before we go, how do people learn more about you? Do you have some Instagram account, some online presence, a vlog, blog? I don't know, something.
We have Instagram personal account. We didn't create a travel account.
Yes.
We have also Polar Step. It's a application, travel application. It's follow you, like it follow all the steps you do, and we put some photos and sometimes some text. Sometimes we don't put text, and I think this can be also a conversation, like how do you document your trip and communication that you do about your trip. We talk about with Lauren, and we finally think that we want to be more focused on what we live than communicate what we are living to the other person.
Yes.
We will do it after with our family and friends, but and we take photo for the remembers and we write things, but yeah, Instagram and Polar Step.
Do you keep journal for yourself from the road or not so
No,
much? Not so much.
I was doing it at first. I'm not doing anymore. Sometimes I think it can be nice. Sometimes I take some notes, but it's not daily.
Yes.
It's when I want.
Yes. I can share with my own personal experience. Right now I'm working on my book about the 50-state journey, and I see that I captured a lot of it with video, not to post it, just for myself, because I wanted, like you said, because for me I thought it would be very hard to both write and be in the present moment. But now I'm not so sure, because I see that I'm writing a journal of the daily of here and of what happened then, and it's not the same depth of information that I have like when I'm writing my own journal, because everything is fresh in your mind, and even though you think, oh, I'll remember this moment forever, you won't remember everything that was around this moment. Now it's kind of tricky still, because right now we are in a in a steady location. We are here, so I have time to write, and over there I was like, I had like this goal to finish like the whole 50 states, so I needed to move. And now this time around, this journey is way slower, around Central America. I'm in no rush. It can take however it will take. I don't have any plans like for what's then. Like you said, my focus is entirely on the now. But if you can even just try to focus 10-15 minutes a day at the beginning of the day, just to summarize the last day, a little bit about your experiences, a little bit about the place, about the dynamic that you had, with your girlfriend. and who knows like what will happen later in the future. But I can share with my own personal experience that this is something that I highly recommend.
Okay.
And I'm totally with you. I have both Danny and I have love-hate relationship with social media. So right now we deleted the application of Instagram and Facebook from our phones, and because you feel like it's taking over your life and you're not getting much value from it. But yeah, it's just for yourself. I would recommend, if you can, just write a little bit, and who knows later what will be with it. But I will put links to all the your profile and the polar step and everything, and yeah, man, Antony, it's been such a pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much for doing this, and being here on the show, the Lior Vaknin show. Is there anything you want to add before we wrap this up? Before we end the show, is there anything you want to add?
Thanks a lot. It was a nice experience. First interview for me, also in English, but nice experience and nice conversation. And I was very free in my way to speak, and I was feeling that you were very listening to me. It was good. You had a good posture, and yeah, I think you can follow with this, and thanks you for the little recommendation. I think that will stay here, and I think it's a good thing to do. But there's still this. I don't know. Maybe it's because you don't. Yeah, I think it's paresse. I don't know how to say, but I think it's like it's a little bit how do you say, like annoying or
it's like a muscle. I can tell you that it's like a muscle. It's the first day that you write, the hardest. The second day, a little bit less hard. On the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, it already comes like automatic. It's like cycling. It's the same. The first day, I'm sure physically it was so hard. Now you're doing it without even thinking. So
that's true.
Yes.
Thanks.
Yeah. So thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Antony. If you want to support this podcast and see more amazing guests on this show, please consider supporting this podcast on Patreon. The address is down here, patreon.com/The Lior Vaknin Show. This way will help me sustain me and Danny along our travels and along our journey. And obviously will help to bring more high quality content for you back home and enjoy some stories from the road. So thank you so much for joining us, and that's it. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.